Hey, it's Rick with Rock Bottom Outreach, and it's Real Talk Thursday. I want to talk about a book I read when I hit rock bottom in 2008. When I thought nobody loved me, nobody really cared about me, and I felt like pond scum. This is a book I began to read that brought me a little bit of a message of hope. And it was this one, the Josh Hamilton book called Beyond Belief. And it talks about his struggles of addiction. But you know, we know the story, we know the career, but what a lot of people don't know is about Granny. If you've not read this book, you don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about Granny. Because when Josh Hamilton hit rock bottom and he had nowhere to go, he went to Granny's. And I want to read a little bit of this to you real quick. He had woke up in a trailer. It was a crack house, if you would. And he describes this. Granny didn't know I was coming. She hadn't seen me in 2 or 3 months. It was 2 in the morning. I had no money. I had no place to stay and no plan for any of it. I was reverting to the actions of my childhood when Granny's house served as my haven, a refuge when I needed to feel comfortable and wanted. I wasn't thinking straight, but somewhere inside of me, I knew I would be welcome at Granny's and that I didn't even have to worry about what? About being judged. I was a wreck, dirty, twitching, barely coherent. I was so absorbed in my own world, I didn't consider the circumstance of my presence. I didn't think about the rudeness of showing up at the doorstep of a 72-year-old woman in the middle of the night. This house afforded me the best chance of finding temporary shelter, so here I was. Here's how my mind worked. If Granny let me in, and I knew she would, I could stay here for a day or two, and I could figure out the next. Granny met me at the door in a robe. She must have heard me rumbling in the driveway, or else she was already awake. She opened the door and she simply said, "Josh." She hid the shock she must have felt at the sight of me. There was food on my shirt. I was fidgety, sweating. I could not even stand still. "Hi, Granny. Do you think I can stay here for a little while?" "You don't look too good, Josh. How about you come in and you get something to eat?" Boy, doesn't that sound like your granny? Do you have a granny like that? And just come on in and get something to eat. Once I got in the house, Granny suggested I take a shower while she cooked me some eggs. There was no doubt I needed to clean up. When I got out, she had a plate of eggs waiting for me. She was in a spare bedroom fixing up the bed. Do you know that night Granny tucked him into bed like a little kid? Granny began to speak positive thoughts into him, to say, "Josh, you can do this." She never judged him. She never threw it in her face. One thing Josh knew is Granny and God were beside him every step of the way. We're talking about the power of unconditional love and how it's amazing how far that goes, just like his grandmother. I don't know if you have someone in your life that's an addict or struggling, but this I'll tell you. Don't you ever give up. Don't you ever discount the power of love and a Christ-like love of that and how far that goes. The people, and I can relate to this, the ones I remember the most are the ones that never gave up on me. The ones that never left me behind. The ones that told me day after day, "Rick, you can do this. You can beat this. You can come back." That is love, folks. That is love. Never ever do I look back and I sit and ponder the ones that gave up on me. The ones I remember the most was the voice of encouragement, just like Granny. If you're a true Christ follower, you know this. With God, all things are possible. So if you're around people that say you ain't never going to change, you need to find you some new friends, because that's not very positive. The one thing people know with Rock Bottom Outreach and what we do, we'll love you unconditionally, but we'll be real with you. Understand you can love someone, but still being real with them. If you need encouragement, I encourage you to get this book and focus on Granny and the power of her love that supported and encouraged Josh Hamilton. Again, this Real Talk is not about Josh Hamilton. It's about the power of love. God talks about the first, second commandment that are focused on love and to love one another. I don't know if you've ever experienced a love like that, but I know myself, I've experienced someone giving up on me. How do I know that's not biblical? I go look at the prodigal son in the story. How his son squandered everything, but when he saw him in the distance, the father ran to him. The power of love is what this reel talks about. It's Rick with Rock Bottom Outreach. It's been real Talk Thursday.